Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the small blue planet ahead. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, but he knew the history. 200 years ago, humans had attacked alien ships without warning. The Galactic Council had put a barrier around the entire solar system to keep humans trapped inside. No one had been allowed in or out since then. Today that was going to change. Jake's ship carried 12 different alien species, all here to see what had happened to humanity during their long isolation. Most of the council members expected to find a dead world or maybe primitive survivors fighting over scraps. "Captain, we are getting signals from the human planet," said his communications officer. The alien had 4 arms and blue skin covered in scales. "They want to talk?" Jake nodded and opened the channel. A human woman appeared on the screen. She had gray hair tied back and wore a clean white uniform. Her eyes were calm and intelligent. "Welcome to the Sol system," the woman said. "I am Admiral Lisa Carter. We have been waiting for you." Jake tried to hide his surprise. The humans had been waiting. That meant they knew the quarantine was ending. How could they know that when the council had only decided last week? "Admiral Carter, I am Captain Morrison of the Galactic Council. We are here to check on your people and see if you are ready to rejoin galactic society." Lisa smiled. "Please dock at Gateway Station. We have prepared everything for your visit." Jake looked at his crew. Gateway Station had not been there when they entered the system an hour ago. The scanner showed a massive structure that had just appeared near Earth's moon. It was bigger than most space cities and seemed to be made of materials his sensors could not identify. The docking went smoothly. Jake and his team of 12 aliens stepped onto the station. The air was clean and fresh. The walls seemed to glow with soft light, but there were no visible light sources. Everything looked new and impossibly advanced. Commander Alex Turner met them at the airlock. He was a tall human with brown hair and a friendly smile. He wore a simple blue uniform that seemed to change color slightly as he moved. "Welcome to Gateway Station," Alex said. "We built this yesterday when we detected your approach." Ambassador Zakth, an insect-like alien with 6 legs, clicked his mandibles in disbelief. "You built this entire station in one day." "That is impossible," Alex shrugged. "Not really. Our construction systems work pretty fast now. Would you like to see how we did it?" Before anyone could answer, the wall next to them became transparent. Outside, they could see small machines working on the station's hull. The machines were the size of dust particles, but there were billions of them. They moved like a silver cloud, adding new sections to the station even as the group watched. "Nanoscale construction robots," Alex explained. "They can build almost anything if you give them the right materials and energy." Harmonizer Prime, a being made of living crystal that communicated through musical tones, sang a note of confusion. Jake's universal translator turned it into words. "Where do you get the materials and energy for such massive construction?" Alex pointed toward the sun. "We have collectors around our star. They gather solar energy and convert it directly into matter. Einstein showed that energy and matter are the same thing. We just figured out how to make the conversion efficient." Jake felt dizzy. Converting energy directly into matter was theoretical science. Even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy could only do it in tiny amounts in laboratory conditions. Humans were doing it on an industrial scale. The tour continued through the station. Every room showed technology that should not exist. Gravity flowed in different directions in different areas, allowing for impossible architecture. Plants grew in patterns that formed living art, their leaves changing colors in response to the emotions of people nearby. Water flowed upward in spirals that defied physics. "How long have you been able to do these things?" asked Collective Node 7, a representative of a hive mind species. "About 150 years, Alex said casually. "Once we stopped fighting each other and started working together, progress came pretty quickly." They entered a large viewing area with windows that showed Earth below. But this was not the Earth from the historical records. The planet sparkled with cities of light. Massive structures floated in the clouds. The oceans glowed with underwater cities. Space elevators stretched from the surface to orbital platforms. "Your population record showed 8 billion humans 200 years ago," Jake said. "How many people live in your system now?" "About 200 billion, Alex replied. "We solved the resource problem and the aging problem. People can live as long as they want now, and we have plenty of room with all the space habitats and planetary colonies." The alien delegates looked at each other with expressions of shock and disbelief. 200 billion people should have exhausted any system's resources long ago, yet the humans seem to have unlimited energy, materials, and space. A young human woman joined the group. She wore a simple green dress that seemed to be made of living plants. "I am Dr. Amy Foster," she said. "Admiral Carter asked me to show you our life extension technology." Amy held up her hand. The skin became transparent, showing the bones and blood vessels underneath. Then tiny machines became visible in her bloodstream, moving like microscopic fish. "Medical nanobots," she explained. "They repair damage, fight disease, and keep our bodies young. Death from aging or illness is basically optional now." Jake realized that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. The species that had been locked away as dangerous primitives had somehow become more advanced than any civilization in the galaxy. The quarantine had not contained a threat. It had created one. But as Jake looked at the peaceful, smiling faces of the humans around him, he wondered if threat was the right word. These people did not seem aggressive or dangerous. They seemed more like teachers waiting patiently for slow students to catch up. The real question was what humanity planned to do with their incredible power. Dr. Marcus Webb walked into the laboratory with his research partner, Dr. Rachel Stone, following close behind. The alien delegation trailed after them, still trying to process what they had seen on Gateway Station. Marcus was a middle-aged human with gentle eyes and hands that moved constantly as he talked. Rachel was younger, with red hair and an excited smile that never seemed to leave her face. "Before we start the demonstration, I should explain something important," Marcus said to the group of 12 alien visitors. "Everything you are about to see violates what your science says is possible. We understand that. Our science said the same thing until we proved it wrong." The laboratory looked simple at first glance. There were workbenches and equipment that seemed familiar. But as the aliens looked closer, they noticed details that made no sense. Tools floated in midair without support. Computer screens showed equations that seemed to move and change by themselves. A small sun burned in a glass container on one table, providing light and warmth to the entire room. "That is a fusion reactor," Rachel explained, pointing to the glowing orb. "It produces more energy than our entire city needs. The containment field is maintained by manipulating space-time itself." Ambassador Zacht's insect eyes focused on the impossible device. "Our best fusion reactors are the size of large buildings. How can yours be so small?" Marcus picked up the container and tossed it gently to Rachel. The aliens jumped back in terror, expecting an explosion that would destroy the station. Rachel caught it easily, and the small sun continued burning peacefully in her hands. "We learned that size does not matter in fusion reactions," she said. "The key is controlling the reaction at the quantum level. Once you can manipulate individual particles directly, you can make fusion happen in any amount of matter." She set the reactor down on another table. Immediately, the space around it began to twist visibly. Gravity flowed in spirals, making tools and papers dance through the air in impossible patterns. "The fusion reaction creates exotic matter as a byproduct," Marcus explained. "Exotic matter has negative mass, which means it pushes instead of pulls. We use it to control gravity." Engineer Tony Brooks entered the laboratory carrying what looked like a piece of metal. He was a stocky human with oil stains on his clothes and a big grin on his face. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "I was showing the Kylorian engineer our self-repairing materials." Tony threw the metal piece hard against the wall. It made a loud crash and broke into several fragments. The aliens watched in amazement as the pieces began moving by themselves. They crawled across the floor like living things and rejoined into the original shape. Within minutes, the metal was whole again and showed no signs of damage. "Smart matter," Tony explained. "Every atom in this material is programmed with instructions for its proper place and function. If the material gets damaged, the atoms simply rebuild themselves into the correct pattern." Harmonizer Prime sang a complex melody that the translators rendered as deep confusion and wonder. "How can atoms be programmed?" "Atoms are not alive," Rachel laughed. "Atoms are not alive the way we understand life. But they can carry information. We learn to encode instructions into the quantum structure of matter itself. Every piece of smart matter contains complete blueprints for its own construction and repair." The demonstration continued with technologies that challenged every law of physics the aliens knew. Marcus showed them computers that processed information faster than light, by using quantum entanglement between particles. The computers could solve mathematical, problems that would take normal machines millions of years to complete. Information travels instantly between entangled particles no matter how far apart they are, Marcus explained. So our computers can think at quantum speeds instead of being limited by the speed of light. Dr. Amy Foster joined them again, this time bringing several other humans. Each person demonstrated different impossible abilities. One human woman made objects disappear and reappear in different locations. Another created complex machines simply by thinking about them and watching as nanobots assembled the devices from raw materials in the air. We call this directed construction, Amy said. Our nanobots are connected to our nervous systems through neural interfaces. We can design and build almost anything just by imagining it clearly enough. A human man stepped forward and held out his hand. A small black sphere appeared floating above his palm. The aliens' instruments immediately detected massive gravitational distortions coming from the tiny object. Artificial black hole, the man said calmly. We use them for energy storage and waste disposal. This one contains about as much energy as your entire fleet. Captain Jake Morrison felt his knees go weak. Humans were casually creating and controlling black holes. One mistake could destroy entire solar systems. Yet they treated these cosmic forces like simple tools. Are you not afraid? Jake asked. These technologies could destroy your entire civilization if something went wrong. Marcus and Rachel looked at each other and smiled. That's what makes them safe, Rachel said. We understand the risks completely. Our computer systems monitor every particle and every energy fluctuation. If anything starts to go wrong, our nanobots can fix the problem faster than any disaster can develop. We have been using these technologies for over a century, Marcus added. We have never had a serious accident because our systems are designed to prevent problems before they start. The final demonstration nearly broke the aliens' minds completely. Rachel opened a panel on the wall to reveal what looked like empty space. But as the aliens watched, stars appeared in the darkness. Not images of stars, but actual stars burning billions of miles away. Wormhole viewing system, she explained. We can open small portals to anywhere in the galaxy. We use them for observation, communication, and travel. Jake stared at the impossible window to distant space. You can travel anywhere instantly. Pretty much, Marcus said. We have been exploring the galaxy for decades. We know about your civilizations, your histories, your technologies. We have been waiting for the right time to make contact. The implications hit the alien delegation like a physical blow. Humans had not been trapped by the quarantine. They had been free to go anywhere and do anything for generations. They could have conquered the galaxy easily with their advanced technology. Instead, they had chosen to wait and watch. Collective Node 7 spoke through its translator. Why did you not break the quarantine earlier? Why did you wait for us to come to you? Amy Foster answered with a sad smile. Because you were not ready to meet us as equals. You still thought of humans as primitive and dangerous. We needed you to see what we had become before we could work together. And we need to work together, Marcus said seriously. The technologies we are showing you are just the beginning. There are much bigger challenges coming, and we are going to need all the help we can get. The aliens left the laboratory in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about technology, physics, and the balance of power in the galaxy had been turned upside down. Humanity was not just advanced. They were so far beyond everyone else that the comparison was meaningless. But the most disturbing thing was the humans' attitude. They did not act like conquerors or masters. They acted like teachers preparing their students for a final exam that would determine the survival of everyone in the galaxy. Dr. Kevin Hayes met the alien delegation in what humans called the Culture Center. Kevin was a tall man with kind eyes and a way of speaking that made everyone feel comfortable. He wore simple clothes that seemed to shift colors based on his mood. Behind him, the walls displayed scenes from human cities around the solar system. Technology is only part of what humanity has become, Kevin said as he led the group through corridors filled with impossible art. The bigger change is how we live together and treat each other. The aliens followed him past sculptures that moved and changed shape as people walked by. Paintings on the walls told stories that adapted to whoever was looking at them. Music played from everywhere and nowhere, creating melodies that seemed designed for each individual listener. We eliminated scarcity first, Kevin explained. When everyone has access to unlimited energy, materials, and space, most social problems simply disappear. People do not fight over resources that everyone can have. They entered a large viewing area where they could see Earth below, The planet looked nothing like the historical records. Cities floated among the clouds like jeweled islands. The oceans sparkled with underwater civilizations. Space elevators stretched up from the surface, connecting the planet to orbital habitats that housed billions of people. Artist Emma Clark joined them at the viewing windows. She was a young woman with paint-stained fingers and eyes that seemed to see colors that did not exist. "Would you like to experience human art?" she asked the aliens. Before anyone could respond, the room around them changed. The walls became transparent, and the aliens found themselves floating in space, surrounded by cosmic sculptures made of living starlight. Music filled their minds directly, bypassing their ears entirely. They could taste colors and see sounds as the art form engaged all their senses simultaneously. 11-dimensional art, Emma explained as the experience faded back to normal. When you are not limited by physical constraints, art becomes much more interesting. Ambassador Zakth clicked his mandibles nervously. "How do you create art in dimensions we cannot perceive?" "Practice," Emma said with a smile, "and neural enhancement technology that lets us think in more complex ways. Most humans can perceive and work in up to 15 dimensions now." They moved through the station to meet ordinary human citizens. Sam Rodriguez was working in a repair bay, fixing a damaged shuttle using tools controlled by his thoughts. The nanobots in his hands could reshape metal and crystal at the molecular level, rebuilding the ship better than it had been originally. "I have been doing this job for 60 years, Sam said cheerfully. "I still love it because every repair is different. Plus, the ships keep getting more interesting as our technology improves." Captain Jake Morrison did a quick calculation in his head. "If you have been working for 60 years, you must be at least 80 years old, Sam laughed. "Try 120. I plan to keep working for at least another century. Maybe longer if the job stays fun." The concept of people choosing their own lifespan was difficult for the aliens to understand. Most species aged and died according to natural cycles. Humans had simply decided that death was optional and engineered their biology accordingly. Teacher Helen White showed them the education system. Children learned through direct neural transfer, absorbing entire libraries of information in minutes, but the process was carefully designed to enhance creativity rather than suppress it. "Knowledge is easy," Helen explained, as they watched human children building complex machines with their minds. "The hard part is teaching people how to think originally and solve problems no one has solved before." A group of young humans were creating new forms of music by manipulating sound waves directly. Another group was designing living buildings that would grow instead of being constructed. The children moved easily between individual projects and group collaboration, sharing ideas instantly through neural links when they wanted to work together. "Do you not worry about losing individual identity?" asked Collective Node 7, whose species existed as a shared consciousness. Helen shook her head. "The neural links are optional and temporary. People can choose to share specific thoughts or experiences, but everyone maintains their own personality and private mental space. We found that voluntary connection is much stronger than forced unity." The most remarkable discovery was how humans had eliminated conflict. Mediator Chris Baker explained their conflict resolution system as he showed the aliens through the Justice Center. "When people disagree, they can choose to experience each other's memories and emotions directly," Chris said. "It is very hard to hate someone after you have felt what they feel and understand why they think the way they do." The aliens watched as two humans who had been in a serious dispute sat in chairs connected by glowing cables. Information flowed between their minds, allowing each person to fully understand the other's perspective. Within minutes, they were working together to find a solution that satisfied both of their needs. "This looks like mind control," Jake said suspiciously. "It is the opposite," Chris replied. "Both people volunteer for the process and can stop at any time. No one is forced to change their mind. But when people truly understand each other, they usually find ways to cooperate instead of fight." The system worked so well that crime had essentially disappeared from human society, not because it was prevented or punished, but because people no longer wanted to hurt each other once they understood the connections between all human lives. Commander Alex Turner rejoined them as the tour continued. "The biggest change is that we stopped thinking of ourselves as separate individuals competing for limited resources," he said. "We realized that human civilization works best when everyone can contribute their unique abilities to shared goals." They visited the decision center where major choices about human society were made. Instead of voting or having leaders make choices for everyone, humans used a system of collective intelligence that considered every person's input while still allowing for quick decisions. Everyone contributes their knowledge and perspective, explained coordinator Mike Johnson. Then our computer systems analyze all the information and find solutions that work for everyone. No one is ignored, but no one can force their will on others either. The aliens realized that humans had solved problems that had troubled galactic civilization since the beginning of spaceflight: resource conflicts, social inequality, generational disputes, and the balance between individual freedom and collective good were all ancient issues that every species struggled with. How long did it take to develop these social systems? Asked Harmonizer. Prime, about 50 years of serious effort, Kevin replied. Once we had the technology to provide for everyone's needs, we could focus on designing better ways to live together. As the cultural tour ended, Jake Morrison felt a deep sense of unease. The humans had not just advanced technologically during their isolation. They had evolved into something that might not be human anymore in any way the galaxy would recognize. But they were still recognizably people. They laughed, they created, they loved, they dreamed. They had simply removed the barriers that prevented them from becoming the best versions of themselves. The question that haunted Jake was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready for what humanity had become, and whether humanity would be patient enough to help everyone else catch up before it was too late. Admiral Lisa Carter led the alien delegation deeper into the human space station than any visitors had gone before. They moved through corridors that seemed to exist outside normal space, where the walls showed views of distant galaxies, and the floor felt solid despite being transparent. The 12 alien representatives followed nervously, sensing that they were about to learn something that would change everything. What I am about to show you must remain secret until we decide together how to share this information with your governments, Lisa said as they approached a massive door that looked like it was made from crystallized space itself. Humanity's advancement during the quarantine was not an accident. The door dissolved as they approached, revealing a chamber that hurt to look at directly. The room existed in more dimensions than most minds could process. At the center, a holographic display showed something that made the aliens step back in terror and wonder. It was a map of the universe itself, but not just their local galaxy. Hundreds of galaxy clusters spread across the display like glowing cities in an ocean of darkness. And moving through that ocean was something else. A wave of pure destruction that consumed entire galactic groups as it passed. Dr. Paul Gordon stepped forward to explain. He was an older human with white hair and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of cosmic knowledge. 60 years ago, we detected signals coming from outside our galaxy. Not radio waves or energy transmissions, but something much more complex. Paul manipulated the display to show detailed recordings of the signals. They were not random patterns or simple messages. They were instructions, blueprints, and warnings transmitted across impossible distances by civilizations so advanced they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We call them the architects, Paul continued. They have been watching the development of intelligent life throughout the universe for millions of years. Most species that reach a certain level of development receive contact from them. Captain Jake Morrison found his voice with difficulty. Why did you not tell the Galactic Council about this? Lisa Carter answered with a sad expression. Because the architects told us something terrible. Every civilization that has faced what is coming has failed. Every single one. Billions of species across thousands of galaxies have been completely destroyed. The holographic display zoomed in on the wave of destruction. As the aliens watched, they could see it was not a natural phenomenon. It was alive, intelligent, and hungry. It consumed not just matter and energy, but the very concepts that allowed life and consciousness to exist. The Void Shepherds, Paul said quietly. They are entities that exist in the spaces between realities. They feed on order, complexity, and intelligence. When they finish with a galaxy cluster, nothing remains but empty space and elementary particles. Engineer Steve Collins joined them in the chamber. He was a practical man with steady hands and a mind that could visualize impossible constructions. Behind him floated holographic blueprints for structures so vast they made planets look like grains of sand. The architects have been preparing for millions of years, Steve explained. They have guided the development of certain species. giving them the knowledge and abilities needed to build defenses against the Void Shepherds. The blueprints showed defensive systems that spanned entire galaxies, artificial barriers created from crystallized spacetime, weapons that could destroy entities existing across multiple dimensions, shields powered by the energy of entire star clusters. But the defenses require more than just technology, Lisa said. They require a level of cooperation and unity that most civilizations cannot achieve. Species must work together perfectly, sharing resources and knowledge without reservation. Ambassador Zack clicked his mandibles as understanding dawned. That is why you were isolated. The architects wanted humanity to develop the social and technological systems needed to lead such cooperation. Exactly, Paul confirmed. Humanity's natural adaptability and innovative thinking made us ideal candidates. But we needed time to grow without the influence of existing galactic politics and limitations. The display changed to show humanity's development during the quarantine years. The architects had provided subtle guidance, helping humans overcome the barriers that had stopped other species from advancing. Technologies that seemed impossible to other civilizations came naturally to humans because they had been designed for human psychology and social structures. The Void Shepherds will reach our galaxy cluster in approximately 200 years, Steve said as he showed projections of their approach. That sounds like a long time, but building the defenses will take most of that time, even with perfect cooperation. Harmonizer Prime sang a complex melody of despair and determination. The translator converted it to words. What must be done? How can our species help? Lisa activated another display showing the current state of galactic civilization. Wars over resources, territorial disputes, species that refused to share technology, governments that could not make long-term decisions. The contrast with humanity's unified and abundant society was stark. Every species in the galaxy must undergo the same transformation that humanity experienced, Lisa explained. Post-scarcity economics, conflict resolution through empathy, collective decision-making, and voluntary neural linking for enhanced cooperation. You are asking us to change everything about how our civilizations work, Jake said slowly. We are asking you to evolve or face extinction, Lisa replied bluntly. The Void Shepherds have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than anything in our galaxy. The only defense is perfect unity and unlimited resources dedicated to the construction of galactic-scale protective systems. Dr. Amy Foster entered the chamber carrying a small device that pulsed with soft light. This contains the complete social and technological blueprints that humanity developed during our isolation, she said. Medicine to eliminate scarcity and aging, technologies to provide unlimited energy and materials, social systems to resolve conflicts and make decisions collectively. She handed the device to Jake. We are giving this to you freely. No payment, no conditions, no political strings. Every species in the galaxy will receive the same gift. Why? Asked Collective Node 7. Why share your advantages so completely? Steve, Collins answered while adjusting the holographic displays to show construction timelines. Because advantages are meaningless if everyone dies. The defenses require the full productive capacity of hundreds of civilizations working together. If even a few species refuse to cooperate or lack the necessary technology, the entire project fails. The aliens began to understand the scope of what humanity was proposing, not just sharing advanced technology, but completely reshaping galactic civilization in less than 2 centuries. It would be the largest cooperative effort in the history of the universe. The architects chose humanity to lead this transformation because of your unique psychology, Paul explained. Most species think in terms of competition and dominance. Humans learn to think in terms of cooperation and mutual benefit. Lisa activated a final display showing potential futures. One path showed the galaxy successfully defended, with all species working together in a post-scarcity civilization that could last for millions of years. The other path showed empty space where their galaxy cluster used to exist. The choice is simple, she said. Evolve together or die alone. The alien delegates stood in stunned silence as the implications sank in. Humanity had not been contained by the quarantine. They had been prepared by it. Everything they had seen, all the impossible technologies and social advances, had been designed for this moment when the galaxy would need to unite or face complete destruction. The greatest revelation was that humanity had already won. They could retreat to other dimensions or distant galaxies using their advanced technology. They could survive the coming destruction and rebuild elsewhere. Instead, they were choosing to risk everything to save species that had imprisoned them for 200 years. The barriers around the Sol system came down on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his ship as the energy fields that had contained humanity for 2 centuries simply vanished. No ceremony, no dramatic speeches. The quarantine ended as quietly as flipping a switch, but what emerged from the Sol system was anything but quiet. The first human diplomatic ship appeared without warning in the heart of galactic space, near the Council headquarters on Zentara Prime. Captain Ben Foster commanded the vessel. Though calling it a ship was like calling a star a candle, the craft existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, making it appear as a constantly shifting geometric impossibility to anyone looking at it. Navigator Lucy Chen worked at control systems that responded to thought rather than touch. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh monitored engines that converted pure mathematics into motion. The crew moved with casual confidence through technologies that violated every law of physics the galaxy knew. Zentara Prime Control. "This is the human vessel Unity requesting permission to dock," Ben said into his communications system. His words were automatically translated into 500 different languages and broadcast simultaneously. The response from planetary control was chaos. Alien voices spoke over each other in dozens of languages as the galactic government tried to process what was happening. Humanity had not just sent ambassadors. They had arrived in a ship that proved their technological supremacy beyond any doubt. President Mary Johnson materialized on the Unity's bridge through a transportation system that moved people instantly across interstellar distances. She was a woman in her 60s who carried herself with the quiet authority of someone who had helped guide humanity through its greatest transformation. "Are you ready for this?" Ben asked as they approached the massive space station that served as the galactic capital. Mary smiled. "We have been ready for decades. The question is whether they are ready for us." The docking process took hours because the station's systems could not properly interface with human technology. Finally, human nanobots simply restructured part of the station to create a compatible docking port. The aliens watched in amazement, as their own architecture flowed like liquid and reshaped itself according to human specifications. The Galactic Assembly Hall had been built to accommodate representatives from hundreds of different species. When Mary Johnson walked to the central speaking platform, the chamber fell silent. Every delegate, from the smallest insectoid beings to the massive gas cloud entities, focused their attention on the human president. "Fellow citizens of the galaxy," Mary began, her voice carrying clearly through translation systems that had been upgraded by human technology minutes before. "We come to you not as the species you quarantined 2 centuries ago, but as something new." She gestured and holographic displays filled the air above the assembly. Images showed human cities floating in space, technologies that manipulated reality itself, and social systems where every individual could contribute their unique abilities to collective goals. During our isolation, humanity discovered that scarcity is a choice, not a natural law. Conflict is a choice. Suffering and death from disease and aging are choices. We made different choices. The displays changed to show the technologies humanity was prepared to share. Fusion reactors the size of coins that could power entire cities. Medical systems that could eliminate aging and disease completely. Construction systems that could build anything from raw energy. Social frameworks that could resolve conflicts through understanding rather than force. "We offer these gifts freely to every species in the galaxy," Mary continued. "No payment, no political obligations, no strings attached. We share this because we have learned that abundance shared is abundance multiplied." Ambassador Zakath was the first to speak. "Why do you offer so much with no conditions? What do you gain from this?" Mary's expression became serious. "We gain allies, because in 200 years, this galaxy will face a threat that can only be defeated through perfect cooperation. Every species must be strong, abundant, and unified if we are to survive." She explained about the Void Shepherds without revealing the architect's role in humanity's development. The assembled delegates listened in growing horror as Mary described, entities that consumed entire galaxy, clusters and left nothing behind but empty space. The defensive systems required to protect our galaxy must be built by all of us working together. Mary said as the display showed the massive construction projects that would span hundreds of star systems. No single species can build them alone. No divided galaxy can complete them in time. The transformation began immediately. Human ships appeared in every major star system, carrying not weapons or conquerors, but teachers and technology. Dr. Patricia Kim led integration teams that worked with alien scientists to adapt human innovations to different species' biological and cultural needs. Within months, the first alien worlds began experiencing post-scarcity economics. Poverty became obsolete as energy-to-matter conversion systems provided unlimited resources. Disease was eliminated as medical nanobots were adapted to different alien physiologies. Social conflicts decreased dramatically as species learned human methods of empathic resolution. The changes were not always smooth. Some species resisted transformation, fearing loss of cultural identity or political power. Others embraced the new technologies too quickly, causing social disruption. But humanity's approach was patient and adaptive. They worked with each species to find paths to advancement that preserved what made them unique while solving the problems that held them back. The real test came when long-range sensors detected the first signs of the approaching threat. The Void Shepherds were still decades away, but their influence began to affect space-time itself, causing disruptions that could be measured by sensitive instruments. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the new Galactic Defense Center, a facility that existed partially outside normal dimensions to better coordinate defenses across multiple realities. Around her, representatives from every species worked together using enhanced neural links that allowed perfect communication while preserving individual identity. Construction of the first galactic barrier is ahead of schedule, reported engineer Steve Collins as he monitored work sites across thousands of star systems. The Andromedan shipyards are producing quantum stabilizers faster than we projected. The Centauri foundries have exceeded output targets for exotic matter generation. The barriers taking shape were structures of impossible scale and complexity. They used technologies that combined the best innovations from every species, enhanced by human engineering and powered by the collective energy production of the entire galaxy. But the most remarkable change was in the beings themselves. Aliens who had fought territorial wars for millennia now work side by side on projects that benefited everyone. Species that had never shared technology freely now contributed their greatest discoveries to the common defense. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as a liaison between human and alien forces, watched the construction through enhanced sensors that let him perceive the work being done across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "I still cannot believe this is happening," he said to Lisa. 2 years ago, most of these species could barely tolerate each other. Now they are building wonders that will protect the entire galaxy. Lisa smiled as she reviewed progress reports from across the galaxy. Fear of extinction is a powerful motivator. But what makes this work is that we gave everyone the tools to succeed. When people have unlimited resources and perfect communication, cooperation becomes natural. The early warning systems detected the Void Shepherds' approach with exactly 197 years remaining until their arrival. The galaxy was no longer a collection of competing species fighting over limited resources. It had become a unified civilization, with abundance beyond imagination and defenses beyond the dreams of previous generations. Human children born after the quarantine's end grew up in a galaxy where every species was a neighbor and every star system was a potential home. They learned technologies that turned thoughts into reality and social systems that made every individual voice heard while maintaining collective purpose. As Admiral Lisa Carter looked out at the construction of humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, she reflected on the journey from isolated primitives to galactic saviors. The quarantine that was meant to protect the galaxy from humanity had instead given humanity the time and space to become what the galaxy needed most: teachers, healers, defenders, and most importantly, proof that intelligence and cooperation could triumph over any force in the universe, no matter how ancient or powerful. The incredible human creations revealed after 200 years of isolation were more than just technologies or social systems. They were hope itself, made manifest in the combined will of an entire galaxy finally working as one.